I ain't blowing no smoke. I mean, I've been sober, but you should've known it. I wasn't going.
I cannot be the only one. Like you. No, you can't convince me. Welcome to Rhonda's World, where we discuss all things fashion, beauty, current events. We talk about a lot of spiritual things as well. Welcome, hop on in. My name's Rhonda, and we are gonna get started. Okay, so aliens are real. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, okay? And I'm going to attempt, I'm going to try to prove this just using logic, right? Forget the fact that CNN has already confirmed, okay? Forget the fact that the FBI and the CIA has already confirmed. I noticed that there are a lot of folks who are still doubtful. They're still, they're still in the wayward land, okay? They don't know what's going on. They're not sure. They're like, the government's lying. They lie about everything. I don't know. Leave me alone. And that's okay. That's totally valid. They do be lying about a lot of things. They lie about damn near everything. But that's not what we're talking about here today. I hope you like my lights because, Halloween is a stone's throw away, okay? And we're trying to get into the festivities a little bit here, I have, a light apparatus that's going. It's projecting some really cool ghost images. Put it up so you guys can see. Isn't it awesome? Isn't it awesome? Maybe I'll leave it like this so that we can actually get the effects of it. Okay, I'll try to find a spot where I can leave it like this. But yeah, man. The CIA has already confirmed. FBI had already confirmed. Aliens are real. Time to get with the program and understand that we are not the only beings in existence. We're just not. Okay. Let's start with, some facts about our universe, some facts about our solar system, and some general basic knowledge about this rock, this floating rock that we live in, right? So we live on Earth, clearly. That's a given, right? We all know that this is the planet that we reside on. I mean, I would hope so. I would hope so. Anyway, so when we think about our planet Earth in comparison to the size of the sun, and that's really where I'm going to start this conversation, right? I know you're like, what does that have anything to do with aliens? Listen to what I'm saying, all right? Just follow me here. The Earth in comparison to the size of our sun, right? So according to NASA, if we wanted to match the mass of our sun, right? If we wanted to match the weight of our sun, we would need 330,000 Earths to our one sun. And that was what would equal the weight. However, if we wanted to fill up the sun with as many Earths as can fit, we would need 1.3 million Earths to fit inside the sun, to fill up the sun to its capacity.
We would need 1.3 million Earths to fit inside the sun.
1.3 million Earths, right? Now, that just kind of speaks to the sheer scale of our sun compared to the planet that we live on, this planet that we reside in, okay? And we can look up in the sky in the daytime and we see our sun and we love it, we adore it. We're like, yes, okay, our sun gives us life, our sun gives us the nutrients, the warmth, and our Earth has its own defenses, like our ozone layer that protects us from the sun's radiation and the rays that, the gas that emits from it, because there's a lot. But when we don't really the conversation never really extends to what our sun is like compared to other stars that are within our galaxy. So if we are to compare our star to a plethora of other stars within our galaxy alone, just within our galaxy, we would see that comparison to others, our star is really kind of just average. Like, it's average size. Like, it's really kind of like in the middle, kind of leaning towards on the smaller end, but really just kind of average, just in the middle. There are plenty of stars that are smaller, and there are plenty that are much larger, right? And then when we think about the fact that there are 1.3 million Earths that make up just our average size sun, I mean, like, okay, so we have that to kind of start to think about the scale of things, right? Just the scale. So if we compare our star to the biggest star within our observable night sky, right? Just compare, the stars that when we look up into the sky, we can see these stars, right? So the largest star that is in our night sky is called Betelgeuse. Listen, hey, okay. Betelgeuse, I don't know. But another name for it is Alpha Osiris, and it is the red giant star that is in our night sky. Of course, it doesn't appear to us as red, right? Because the star is so like many millions of light years away. So say if I look up at the sky today and I'm looking and I see the star Alpha Osiris, the red giant star, Betelgeuse, okay? I don't know how to say that word. We're just gonna call it Alpha Osiris, okay? When I look up and I see Alpha Osiris and I see the light that is emitting from that star, the fact that it is 700,000 light years away means that I am seeing the star 700 years in the past. Woo! Okay. I know that went over somebody's head. That went over somebody's head. Okay, so if you've taken an astronomy class, preferably in college, they do go into that sort of detail, where it's like the further out that we are seeing into our galaxy, into our universe, it means the further back in time we are going. That is a direct correlation. The further out, the further into our galaxy, our own galaxy and outside of it, the further into the universe that we are seeing and viewing is the further back in time we are going, right? Because these stars, these galaxies that we are viewing are thousands of light years away, right? So because they are thousands of light years away from us, that means that we are seeing, whenever we lay our eyes on them for the first time, the light that is emitting from this celestial body is reaching us thousands of light years in the past, right? So the star Betelgeuse, okay, Alpha Osiris, hello? That star is 700 light years away. So what that means is that the light that is emitting from the celestial body Alpha Osiris will take 700 years to reach us because it is 700 light years away. Now, what is the unit of a light year? What is a light year? 1 light year is equal to approximately 6 trillion miles, right? 1 light year is equal to 6 trillion miles. So that means that the star Betelgeuse, Alpha Osiris, it is 700 times 6 trillion, right? And then you would get the number of miles it is away from us, which is astronomical, right? Like we're going into like the nonillions, octillion. We'd start to get into those kind of numbers, which is just we don't have anything on this planet or a model that can relay that in distance, right? It would just be too insane. But that concept of the farther we go out into space, and the farther that we are looking into galaxies, stars, planets, is the further back in time we are going, simply because the moment that we lay our eyes on this celestial body is the light that we are seeing that was emitted thousands, sometimes hundreds, sometimes thousands of years ago. And that's just a fact of astronomy. Now, that is something that can take a little bit to wrap your mind around, and it can be a little bit confusing, but we keep that in mind as we move forward into the conversation, right? So the star Betelgeuse is actually so big. It's so big that if we were to replace our star or our sun with that red giant, the Alpha Osiris, the Betelgeuse star, if we were to replace our star with that, the sun would stretch past Jupiter's orbit, right? And that just gives you a little bit of an idea, just the sheer scale of that star compared to our star in that it is in our daytime sky. So now that we kind of have an idea of what that scale is like, right? We understand that our star is average on the scale of the size of stars, but we also know that we need 1.3 million Earths to fit in the volume of our star alone. Never mind, the big boys, right? Never mind Alpha Osiris. Never mind those stars. So when we think about the number of stars that are not only in our galaxy, but in the observable galaxy around us, there are more stars in our universe than there are grains of sand on our planet. Woo! That's a big one, right? That is a huge one. I'm going to repeat that. This is a famous quote by astrophysicist and astronomer Carl Sagan. He said, "There are more stars in our universe than there are grains of sand on our planet." Now, what does that actually look like? So for every grain of sand on our planet, there are about 10,000 stars in our universe. That's what that means. And we can just kind of see, all right, whoa, that's a lot of stars. There's more of them in the universe than we have grains of sand on this planet. So what that computes out to is approximately 70 septillion stars. 70 septillion stars in our galaxy. Septillion. What is that number? What even is that number? That's 23 zeros. 23 zeros, right? Okay. So we've got 70 septillion stars on our planet. 70 septillion stars in our universe. Okay. Now, in order to get a true scale of, the size of things, just the size of our galaxy, take a look at this clip.
distance from our solar system to the black hole in the center of our galaxy, the Milky Way. The distance from our galaxy, the Milky Way, to the closest neighboring galaxy, nicknamed M87, 54.8 million light years away.
So we understand that. And in further research, we know that in our galaxy, right? We're going to bring it back a little bit. In our galaxy, we know that there are 3,916 solar systems just in our Milky Way galaxy alone, right? That's not counting the other thousands, millions, billions of galaxies that are out there. There are 3,916 solar systems in our galaxy alone. So that inevitably means that if there is a solar system, then there's a star in the center of that solar system. So there are approximately 3,916 stars within our galaxy alone. And that does not include the stars that exist without planets and the planets that exist without stars. You feel where I'm going here? Typically, I will say that you will always find a planet that is orbiting a star, because a star has such an intense gravitational pull towards the objects that are whizzing by, flying by. The only way you would really see a star not have planets orbiting it is if the star is still in its formation stages, and that would come by way of like a nebula cloud. That's where all life pretty much starts, right? Like a nebula cloud, as that's the result of some sort of explosion, some sort of big bang. Some stars die in a hypernova or supernova. Some stars die in the form of a white dwarf, right? And those are just kind of different scenarios that can occur once a star is no longer able to support life, once a star is no longer able to really function as a star. The helium, the hydrogen, all of the gases that it emits, the nuclear fusion that continues in the core of a star that keeps it going, it just exhausts itself. And depending on the size of the star, it will either shrink into a white dwarf or become a pulsar, or it will explode into a supernova, right? And the stars that explode are typically on the larger end, right? So the larger stars in our galaxy, or just in general, right? The larger stars within the universe, they will typically die with an explosion. And that explosion is called a supernova. Now, if you have a really massive star, like a star that is massive on the scale of stars. Hello? Because remember we said our star is in the middle, and then you have stars that are much bigger and stars that are much smaller. When you have a star that is on the much bigger end, when those stars die, it goes hypernova, right? Which is just an insanely massive explosion. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the black holes that we have in our universe today are the results of hypernovas, right? Or definitely supernovas, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the more massive ones are a result of hypernovas that have happened in the past. Okay? So, and according to the BBC, there are approximately 2 trillion galaxies in our observable universe, right? Now that's just in our observable universe. That does not include galaxies that we have yet to see, right? We have the Hubble telescope that is out in, you know, deep space, right? And it's taking images, it's constantly, you know, sending information back to NASA, back to, you know, those telescope headquarters, constantly sending back information. And from the images that they have put together so far, they've discovered about 100 billion galaxies. And that's just from the images that the Hubble telescope has captured. And of course, you know, this is just one piece of such a massive, you know, universe that we live in, right? And if we kind of zoom in to just a small portion of empty space, right? And zoom in super, you know, close up, we would see, or I guess, is it close up or is it far out? I'm not sure. You'd need a lens with a very wide aperture. And if you constantly take images into a small space of the night sky, outside of the influences of Earth's atmospheric pressure, Earth's atmospheric, you know, wavelengths, we would see, like, there's this image that we have from the Hubble telescope, and it's an image that's so, like, zoomed out. I mean, to me it feels like it's zoomed out, right? Because you can see like a bunch of galaxies in this one image. And if you're looking at it, there's approximately 10,000 galaxies just in this one image, in this small space that they just, you know, went in on, you know what I'm saying? And it just kind of opens your eyes to just so much, right? And opens your eyes to just the sheer scale of our universe, the sheer scale of our galaxy, just the galaxy that we live in, you know, just alone. And it kind of brings me back to this space of just like, okay, like, we are here, we are having an experience, we are, you know, living out a life that, you know, we really just have to make it the best life that we can, right? Because we are just such a small, you know, existence on a small speck of rock, literally, in our galaxy, in our universe, that is like, okay, like, you know, it's humbling, right? Like, when you go into this stuff and then you look at it and you really are into it and you're seeing it, you're like, yo, this is humbling, because it's like, we're not even the pin of a needle in this game, okay? We are smaller than that, okay? So it's like, what are you upset about? What are you upset about? Oh, okay. I thought you were upset about something. Like, what you mad about? So, you know, after we kind of zoom out, right, and we've seen that, okay, there are 70 septillion stars in our universe. There are approximately 2 trillion galaxies in our observable universe, right? And this is, like, listen, it's a rough estimate. In our observable universe, there are approximately 2 trillion galaxies. Within these galaxies, right, we know that there are 3,916 solar systems within our own galaxy. And we don't really have a scale of how to measure galaxies, or at least I don't know. There are galaxies that are much bigger than ours. There are also galaxies that are much smaller. So it's like that number can vary. That number varies. There could be a galaxy where there's double the amount of stars and solar systems within that galaxy, but we wouldn't know that yet, right? So it's really kind of important to just take a look at, you know, how is this thing moving? Like, you know, where are we on the scale, on a celestial scale, you know, and get out of our box of what is here, what is on this planet, what is on Earth, right? Because if we now delve into more of the physics side of things, there are anomalies within our universe, within our own galaxy, that kind of defy physics once you get into it. And one of those anomalies is a black hole. And I feel like you used to be able to call a black hole an anomaly. It's not really an anomaly anymore, as we've discovered that, you know, one of the major discoveries that we had is that there are essentially black holes at the center of every galaxy. And that is kind of like, I feel like that just opens up a bunch of existential questions. Like, okay, so are we all gonna eventually be swallowed by the black hole? I mean, what's going on here? I mean, I'd like to know. You feel me? Like, so how do black holes come into fruition? Okay, when a star dies in an explosion, right? Specifically in an explosion, the star has to go supernova or hypernova, which means it is big enough to explode when it dies. Boom. So when a star goes supernova, right? Enough matter collapses back into its core that it literally exits our time space. It literally exits our dimension, right? And we know this because anything that goes into a black hole cannot escape, even light. And that is kind of this, like, I feel like the fact that light goes into a black hole and cannot escape is the ultimate measuring stick, right? That we can use to say, like, okay, like, this is just a void. There is a void of life, of, you know, of just anything in this space here. I can't say that there's a void of activity because there's actually a lot of activity happening within that void. It's almost as if there is like a rip in the time-space continuum, and everything that goes in cannot come out. And when you look at a black hole, there's always like this ring of light that surrounds it, and that is called the event horizon. And what that is kind of just a ring of light. It's because, like, if you've ever, like, you ever brush your teeth, right? And I know this is like a weird example, but if you brush your teeth and, you know, you're like, you know, you gargle, you spit in the sink, the water doesn't go down immediately. It kind of spins a little bit. It kind of takes its time, and then it goes down the sink, right? Like a spiral, and then it kind of goes down. It's the same thing with a black hole, and that is what is happening with the event horizon. It's like the light, the celestial bodies, the suns, the energy that is being sucked into this black hole is spinning around it. It's spinning around in order to just eventually be sucked in, right? And, you know, there's a lot of conjecture around black holes, right? And it's kind of like, one of the things that really puzzles scientists the most is the fact that once something enters the black hole, it doesn't exist on this plane anymore. It doesn't exist in this time space anymore, right? And if that's the case, did it ever really exist? Because according to the laws of physics, you know, matter, like, or energy cannot be like created or destroyed. It can only be like transformed or transmuted, or energy can only be transferred from one thing to another, right? Like, for example, you take water can take the form of ice, right? It's the same energy, just in a different form, right? But with a black hole, that water goes into the black hole and it ain't coming back out again. So then, did it never exist in the first place? But I thought that it existed. You feel me? So it's like, there's a lot of like nuances that, you know, occur with just the study around black holes, the study of the galaxies, the planets, and the events that take place around the celestial bodies that, you know, surround Earth, that, you know, are in our vicinity. And I feel like when you get to that part, it's important to kind of really understand that, like, yo, if there are anomalies that can exist outside the laws of physics, outside of the laws that we as human beings have put stamped on and said that this is what we need to live, right? We need air, water, and food, right? We need air, water, carbon dioxide, something. We need these basic things to live. And if a planet doesn't have these basic things, then it cannot support life. But everything else that we have studied lets us know that life adapts to any circumstance. Life adapts to any circumstance. It was thought for a long time that, for example, methane, that no life can exist within methane. Neptune, the planets Neptune and Uranus are what you would call gas giants. Their atmosphere consists of pure methane gas. It is considered completely unsuitable for life, and we would never think that any life could exist on that surface, right? And a lot of the times, I think one of the mistakes that a lot of scientists make is that it dictates what is suitable for life on another planet on the same scale and terms of what is suitable for life on this planet. And that just doesn't make sense, because it's like, listen, whatever life develops on that planet in that atmosphere is going to be life that it can only exist there. Just like we are a life force that can primarily only exist here on Earth. If we were to go to Mars, if we were to go to Venus, we would need some next level headgear, some suits so that we don't roast, and some headgear so that we can breathe the air that's there. It would be the same thing for a species from another planet coming here, right? They're not going to be able to just walk around, walk up and down like everything's good. They might need a helmet. They might need some suits or something like that. The oxygen could sting them. Like, we don't know. We have no idea. And that's kind of like really what I want to get across in this video, right? Is that, like, there are so many like possibilities and probabilities that can exist within our known universe and outside of it, right? That there's literally no way that we are the only life forms that exist on this planet, right? So back to my Uranus and Neptune example. Those are planets that are mostly have a composition of methane gas, right? And it is thought that, like, no, there's no life that can exist within, methane, within that atmosphere. But I did find that there is a bacteria called Oxyphera, right, that can survive in methane-rich areas. But these areas would be inhospitable to other bacteria. But Oxyphera can exist there. And Oxyphera can mold and transform and evolve into a different type of life form that would depend on methane to live. And maybe they would expend, a different sort of gas, right? That would allow them to continue the life cycle of inhaling methane, exhaling something else, just like we inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, which is beneficial for the plants. Everything is in this yin and yang, nature sort of energy, give and take, right? Everything is a give and it's a take. It's a give, it's a take. We inhale oxygen. The plants give us oxygen. We inhale oxygen. We exhale carbon dioxide, which the plant needs to photosynthesize the sunlight, to grow, to bolster the phosphorus, which gives it that green color. Like, there's so much that is intertwined with the life on this planet, the vegetation on this planet, how we view things, and it's going to be completely different on a planet somewhere else, right? If there are 3,916 solar systems within our galaxy, we have not touched each one. We haven't touched each one. There's life in our galaxy that we we don't even know about, right? Because we haven't entered that corner of the galaxy as yet, right? And if we did, you think you can tell? Are you gonna sit here and tell me you think the CIA is gonna tell you? Huh?
Time is of the essence. We're all gonna die.
Just a minute! Don't hang up! Yellow. You'll have to speak up. I'm wearing a towel.
You think the CIA is gonna let you know? Oh, let me give the public a heads up. Like, hey, just so you know, we found life in planet X75 South. Like, get the hell out of here. They're not gonna tell you none of that. They're not gonna tell you none of it. Not a single lick of it. Okay? And you can find some of the building blocks to life in almost every corner of our solar system and almost every corner of our galaxy. You can find water in almost all of the planets, even in Mercury, right? Mercury is the planet that's closest to the sun, and you can still find water there, even though the atmosphere is mainly a dry, barren land. You can find ice actually in small tucked away in small craters that are shielded from the sun. However, when we go a little bit further back to our next door neighbor, Mars, on the surface there's no water on Mars, right? When you look at the surface, there's no water on Mars. However, there is erosion on the surface of Mars that is consistent with large bodies of water that have been there in the past. So what scientists speculate is that at some point there must have been something that happened that dissipated all of the water. And when we get to those kind of things there, and there are stories that corroborate and align with the science that has already been established, that has already been discovered. It's pretty much like we've kind of set in stone that okay, yeah, there was water on Mars at one point, because we found erosion on the surface of Mars and waterways that are very consistent to erosion and waterways that are here on Earth, so that we know, okay, so this place used to have water, but what happened to the water, right? What happened to the water? And then you understand, okay, so then you get that's the science part of it. And then you go into texts, like religious texts like the Bhagavad Gita, and those ancient religious texts that talk about there being a war among the gods, and a war in the sky, and there was a lot going on, and and it's just like, okay. And when they say a war in the sky, like in the sky, yes, but in space, and that, I'm not gonna get into that, because I feel like that can just go off the deep end real fast. And I want this to kind of be more focused on just understanding the sheer scale of our galaxy, the sheer scale of the universe at hand. And literally, even if the probability of other life being out there is 0.000000000000000000001, like literally due to just the sheer scale of our universe, the fact that there are 70 septillion stars in our universe, 3,916 solar systems in our galaxy alone, which means that there are at least 3,916 stars in our galaxy. There are 10,000 stars for one grain of sand on this earth, right? There are more stars in our universe than there are grains of sand on this planet. Just off the sheer scale of that even if the probability was astronomically small, that would still leave approximately 100 billion other planets out there with life. Okay? Yes. Now that is just aside from the fact that CNN has already confirmed, the FBI, the CIA, the NASA, the, SpaceX, they've already confirmed that, there is extraterrestrial life out there. Other life does exist. And I wanted to kind of get on here and show you guys how, why, and like that it is absolutely possible. It is absolutely possible. And before I go, I just wanna make another point. Okay, you know what I'm saying? I'm into the flow. Okay. If we look at the deepest part of our oceans, right? When you get down to how pressurized the ocean floor is, right? Then it's like we know that there are fish that live in some of the deepest parts of the ocean. As deep as we have gone down into the ocean, into those pressurized depths, the fish that lives within, some of the deepest parts of the ocean is the snailfish. Now, the snailfish reportedly lives in a depth of 8,336 meters. And it's approximately 5 miles below the surface. And as human beings, right, we could not survive, clearly, right? Like we couldn't live in the water anyway, but just to put things into more of a perspective, like we couldn't even dive like, that deep into the ocean, just like a free dive, right? We wouldn't be able to dive that deep into the ocean, even if we had all of the gear, even if we had our oxygen tanks filled up to the brim. Like our bodies could not survive in those depths, right? But there is life that lives there. And just to point out that the Challenger Deep, which is the point furthest depths that submarines have reached, and that is 10,935 meters, which is not that far off from the 8,000 plus meters that the snailfish is able to thrive and exist at. So it's like, okay, so if we have descended, right, to the deepest parts of the ocean, and you can't even say the deepest parts because the ocean is ever more deeper than where we have been able to explore as a human race, right? So measly 2 meters up, that's where we have found, to our knowledge, a fish that lives at the deepest known depths that life can support at 8,300 plus meters, right? And then we, as a human race, have had submarines and expeditions that have gone obviously into the depths of the ocean, but we have only reached 10,935 meters. So we only got 2,000 meters on the snailfish. And while yes, that is, obviously it is a significant distance, it's really like in the grand scheme of the depth of the ocean, of how large, how much of our land is covered with water, it's really minuscule. And it's like, who's to say that there isn't more life that exists deeper, right? Who's to say that? But we don't have steel, we don't have the metal, we haven't configured a ship that can sustain compressurized air and human life at depths beyond that. We don't have that technology as yet. And it just goes to show that, like, if there's life that lives down there, and we know from our study of science, we know from our experience that life adapts to your circumstances. Life adapts and evolves to your environment. It really does. And it's like, if as we know that, then we know the snailfish has evolved to exist and live and hunt and thrive at beyond a depth of 8,000 meters, 5 miles below the Earth's surface, where, you know, even if we had the oxygen tanks and the masks and all of that stuff, we couldn't go that deep into the ocean. But there are flesh and blood beings that live at those depths. So that just also goes to show that, like, listen, the circumstances or what's required for life on our planet doesn't necessarily mean that those same things are required for life on another planet, in another atmosphere, on another surface. So it's important to understand that, engage our knowledge and how we interact with the planets around us, you know, the stars, the galaxies around us in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, understanding that in the context of, okay, like, you know, instead of saying there's no life that could exist there because they don't have, you know, oxygen, carbon dioxide, XYZ, and it's like, okay, no, what life could exist there without these things, or with the atmosphere that we are detecting from this planet? What life could exist there? And it just goes to show that, you know, taking a step back a bit into the sheer scale of galaxies, the number of stars that we have in our universe, the number of planets that we have in our solar system alone, in our galaxy alone, which is a little bit above 5,000. We have over 5,000 planets in our own galaxy, and it's like infinitely more number of planets that just exist in our universe alone. And there are more that are constantly being created. There are more that are constantly being destroyed. And it's all in a cycle of life and death, of yin and yang, give and take. It's all within that life cycle. And I think if there's one truth that we can garner about life that is universal, about, you know, one truth that we can take away from our study of the galaxies, our study of the stars, our study of planets, our study of nature and biology, is that there's always an equal give and take. There's always an exchange of energy that is happening constantly, consistently, without end. And just within that fact alone, you know for a fact that there must be other life that exists in other planets, in other solar systems, in other galaxies. Very likely that there is life that exists within our galaxy that, you know, we just haven't come into contact with yet, or that we have come into contact with and that information is just not being shared. And it's, you know, I just think it's very important to kind of like understand that, come to terms with the fact that we're not alone. And like, it's okay. Like it's fine. Like it's not the end of the world. And you know, I hope that this video, I hope that it makes sense. I really hope that it makes sense. You know, it's just in time for Halloween is a stone's throw away. And of course, we're talking about aliens. Why not? Why not? Why not?
My name is Ryan Fobbs Graves, and I'm a former F-18 pilot with a decade of service in the U.S. Navy, including 2 deployments in Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Inherent Resolve. I have experienced advanced UAP firsthand, and I'm here to voice the concerns of more than 30 commercial aircrew and military veterans who have confided their similar encounters with me. Today, I would like to highlight 3 critical issues that demand our action. As we convene here, UAP are in our airspace, but they are grossly underreported. These sightings are not rare or isolated, they are routine. Military aircrew and commercial pilots, trained observers whose lives depend on accurate identification, are frequently witnessing these phenomena. Parts of our government are aware of more about UAP than they let on, but excessive classification practices keep crucial information hidden. Since 2021, all UAP videos are classified as secret or above. This level of secrecy not only impedes our understanding, but fuels speculation and mistrust. In 2014, I was an F-18 Foxtrot pilot in the Navy Fighter Attack Squadron 11, the Red Rippers, and I was stationed at NAS Oceana in Virginia Beach. After upgrades were made to our jet's radar systems, we began detecting unknown objects operating in our airspace. At first, we assumed they were radar errors, but soon we began to correlate the radar tracks with multiple onboard sensors, including infrared systems, eventually through visual ID. During a training mission in Warning Area Whiskey 72, two F-18 Super Hornets were split by a UAP. The object, described as a dark gray or a black cube inside of a clear sphere, came within 50 feet of the lead aircraft and was estimated to be 5 to 15 feet in diameter. The mission commander terminated the flight immediately and returned to base.
I love you guys. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, that you got something from it, that you can see what I see. You see my point of view. You see that I am, listen, we're not crazy. We're using logic here, okay? Logically, there has to be something else out there, logically. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment. If you feel so as well, if you feel me